Well, the Democrats are becoming more and more desperate as every single one of their hoaxes continue to fall right back down in their face. And what do they do every single time that they become more and more desperate with the American people as you are not doing what they say? They go right back to pretend they're a victim. They go through all their little V cards, whether it is because you're a racist or because you're a bigot or because you don't like women. All the normal things. And this time they're going to combine all of them as the 2026 midterms are now slowly coming up and getting closer and closer to being decided. And the Democrats, as they've ran their hoaxes to try to regain power, see, this is what they have done for an entire generation, is they just blame the other side over and over and over again because they think that they are the right to rule over you, that they have moral ambiguity. And because of this, because they decide what is right and what is wrong, then no matter what they do, anything the other side does is wrong. You see how that twisted mindset works for the liberal elite. But this is the same well that they go down to every single time. And I have never seen the Democrats this desperate before. It's really the vast thing is the change in that our political environment, especially with the rise of the independent creators, like here on the CASHLOREN show. For to take a moment to say greetings with you folks. It's great to be back here again as we discuss politics every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, making the liberals tie tears that are saltier than you know whose fries. And as they continue to tank, I mean, this is the Democrat Party that used to reclaim that they were the party of the workers, right? That they were the blue collar party, the party of the Americans, which even back then that was a lie, of course, too, but it just wasn't as obvious as it is now. And this has really come down to now that we have independent creators. And now that we can show why and how easily they lie to you, the American voters. Because for decades, they've relied on the fake news networks. And the fake news networks, they would not tell a story that they didn't want you to hear, or they do far worse, they'd hide details of a subject and hoping that you would never be able to find out the other way because, you could either go online, you could go to the mainstream media, or you could go to your newspapers. There wasn't a chance that in the past to really have a large audience that you could tell the other side to. And the Democrats, they have depended on this for a very long time. But now everything is changing, and this goes on to their next hoax, directly into the midterms, as it starts with Jasmine Crockett, who is losing her mind again, all because that the Texas is very likely going to add 5 more seats before the midterms, and all 5 seats should go to the Republican Party. And she is going to lie relentlessly and play all her little victim cards. So you're a racist, or you hate women, or you hate people of color. See, this is the way the Marxists, this is how they operate every single time. Normal Marxism would just be on a class base. It would be, the haves and the have-nots, the landowners and the non-landowners. And they try to pitch the people who have against the people who have not. So he's always divide down in the middle and then have the two sides fight each other and then conquer society and then rebuild it in their communist utopia. But nowhere has their communist utopia ever worked. Yet they still keep trying to push it, all because they want power over you. At the end of the day, this is not about human rights. This is not about American rights. This is not about the workers getting their dues. See, that is always the lie the Marxists left. It is always about them taking power from you and giving it to themselves. Because the left, they see themselves as the right. And they see themselves as your betters. See, they think that they are born to rule over you. And they think that their Ivy League degrees and their fancy ivory towers, that this gives them the right. And if you don't believe in that, well, then you must be a racist, or you must be a bigot, or you must be some kind of transphobe, or you must be a homophobe, or you must be a white nationalist, or you must be one of those extreme MAGA Republicans. In their minds, they cannot understand why you would not vote for them. I mean, in their minds, this is so important that why should they even have to have votes? This is about social justice. This is about DEI. This is about bringing the white man down. See, in the Democrats, their worldview, America is evil. And capitalism is dirty and it's filthy. Even though capitalism has raised more people out of poverty than the rest of human history combined. Even though capitalism has built more wealth than any other time in history. Even though capitalism has taken the human race and advanced it far beyond people's dreams in just a few hundred years. None of that is good enough for the Democrats because that doesn't give them power over you. So they go right back to all their same hoaxes that they always do. This is why they hate America so much. And this is why they can't stand when they have to have an American flag or talk about American pride or talk about American exceptionalism, that you are the secret sauce. You see, it's a thing that's kind of bred here that's very unique in America, where the rest of the world wants, but have never ever been able to achieve this kind of success. And it all becomes from the right to pursue happiness. See, in America, we're not guaranteed happiness or safety. We're guaranteed the right to pursue it. That is the one thing that changes America from everywhere else. Because in that right to pursue happiness, that means individual liberty. So it's the exact opposite of what all the Democrats want. When they want to go and they want to take away your rights so they can rule over you, see, that takes away your liberty. It understands that merit is the greatest way that we have to put the best people in the best positions to win. But that, of course, is against everything that the Democrats believe in, because they believe that government should be your God. And of course, this government that rules over this evil, vile, bigoted America, where there's just too many evil white men. So the Democrats, of course, have to come in and they have to take away all of your rights and give your rights to somebody else. It's one of the most evil things, because the thing that Marxism can never ever explain, when they go and they talk about how they're going to make, take the poor and go against the rich, or in this case, when they're doing against all the people of color against all the white men, they can never explain in any of that how once you take away from those that achieved and give to those that haven't, how are they going to be the good ones? Right? How are they going to be the moral ones? The missing piece of Marxism is individual liberty. And it is our merit system, because you here in America, okay, I don't care what color your skin is, and I don't care what color what your background is. I don't care where you've been. And it's important to remember where we've been through, but you're not necessarily a victim of your past. You can overcome and overachieve it. And there's nowhere where that is more possible than here in the United States for anybody that is here legally. Take your wildest dreams. What do you want to achieve? You have more opportunity here to achieve those goals than anywhere else in the world. And the proof has been shown over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what someone's immigration. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. See, the Democrats are lying. They know they're lying because they have to get you mad and angry to get you to stop thinking. See, when people are mad and when people are angry, they are essentially drunk. And they just lash out at whatever they're told to lash out at to, and they never realize that they're lashing out, really giving up their own rights. And by the time they do that, it's way too late. See, by the time the communist revolution is finished, like what the Democrats want, unfortunately, if there's one thing that the 𝕏 Van Fleet taught me when I interviewed her last year and earlier this year, is that it's unfortunately the people who vote for communism, they're generally not the ones who take the worst of it. It's their children that suffer the most. I mean, that part when 𝕏 Van Fleet explained that to me, that was like the moment where it all really came together. See, all these isms, whether the Democrats want to call it socialism, or they want to call it progressivism, or they want to call it liberalism, or they want to call it activism, all their isms, their repackaged Marxism, really is just leads down the same path to communism. The Democrats, they are communists. And they changed normal communism from the typical haves and have-nots to now the racism. See, it's not the landowners, it's now the white men. And it's not all the have-nots, all the people of color. See, those are the two sides. It's like a Mad Libs, or they got the sentence in the middle is the same, but they take the two ends and they switch out the words. But it's the exact same game plan. Divide and conquer every single time. And to do this, you must believe that you are a permanent victim. And you know who needs permanent victims is villains. And this is going to now bleed into Jasmine Crockett because of the redoing of the congressional seats in Texas, which will likely bring 5 more seats to Republicans. And the Democrats, all their cards we're now coming back and taking back the House. And that is the single sole purpose. Everything they do, everything they say, everything they lie about is all now trying to take back the House. Because they realize that if they do, they can essentially shut down the Trump administration, but really your will for the next 2 years. And then they're hoping they can take back the presidency with, I don't know who. I mean, Gavin Newsom, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg. They have absolutely no bench, but we'll bring that into another day. And this is very possible to do. Now, normally, since this is done along the census, which the last one was done in 2020, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we have Greg Abbott who's planning to do so. So I'm going to play this part with Jasmine Crockett here, and then watch how she tries to twist this. And remember, this is all Marxism repackaged. Instead of being landowners and non-landowners, the haves and have-nots, she is now trying to repackage it all into the people of color versus the white people. So watch carefully and see how she repackages Marxism here, all because the Democrats are losing their power. They believe they're right to rule over you.
First of all, it hasn't quite been said clearly that Texas has always been found to be intentionally discriminatory. And so I want y'all to understand the makeup of my state. The state is a majority minority state. And what this legislature historically has done is what they plan to do again, is to dilute the voices of people of color in order to make sure that they can get to where they're trying to go.
All right, so you hear her speak right there. All right, she's telling you where the game plan. The Democrats, their entire line with their Marxism, it all starts now with they repackages as racism, just like she has said. Right? What does she do right from the beginning of that? It's all the people of color. First, she didn't directly say it, but she means it. All the whites. See how the two combine. Same playbook, different words. But that is simply not true. Not even for a moment. To believe where the Jasmine Crockett is going, you have to then believe that everything is divided around right down racial lines. Which, of course, is a very racist thing for the Democrats to say. But racism is at the very heart of their belief system. Also, notice what she fails to say there is that Donald Trump won the popular vote. And Donald Trump not only won the popular vote, but he ran it across all demographics. I think the only one that he didn't increase his share of was black women. But especially one of his highest jumps was with Latinos. And a big, huge jump with black men. Now, why is that? Well, if we're supposed to believe the Democrats, if we're supposed to believe that somehow America is so racist and that somehow America is just stained, and it's just vile and it's evil and the Democrats have to come and save it. If that is really true, then why are the Democrats losing ground? I mean, the United States is basically divided into 3 almost equal sections. You have about a third Democrat, about a third Republican, and about a third of in the middle, which is probably most of you who watch this show would be somewhere in the middle. Probably more socially on the left and more economically on the right. But for the Democrats, for their lies, when they're running their mouths, like Jasmine Crockett does there, is that it all has to come down to that's simply not true. That they have to believe that everybody agrees with whatever they decide to tell you that day. It's incredibly, I'm going to say, like, narcissistic of them. And the thought that they have such low expectations of you, the American people, that they think that because they're the Ivy League elite, that because they're the liberal elite, that they have the right to tell you how to think. It should just piss every single one of you off. And then them to try to take away your agency, to tell you that the Democrats, that they think you're too dumb to think for yourself. That is what she just said right there, right? All people of color should agree with the Democrats. I mean, that is what she said. Against all the white people, that because of the color of your skin, that you are evil. That is what she's pushing for. Because going all the way back to when Barack Obama decided to repackage Marxism. But they had a huge problem, as most of America is still white. And even a bigger problem they didn't understand is that most people don't think like them regardless of the color of their skin. Because most people are like you. Most people love this country. Okay, most people believe in American exceptionalism. Most people want to just have a good life. They want to pay the minimum amount of taxes. They want to raise their family. And they want to just go and have fun with their free time. I mean, this is the American dream. And this is everything that the Democrats run against. And then they wonder why they're all the way down to, I think 17% is way too high for them. The midterms are slipping away. They were supposed to take back the House in Wisconsin. Do you remember this? This wasn't too long ago, when they invested millions and millions and millions of dollars into flipping that Wisconsin seat from Republican to Democrat. And unfortunately, our side didn't pay enough attention to that election. As much as we tried to scream it from our top of our lungs, this is one of the real weaknesses from our side of the aisle, is that unless Trump is involved, they almost never get involved themselves. It's unfortunate that basically gun owners don't vote. Christians in a way too large a percentage do not vote. It's a huge problem in our country, because if they did, we'd win. Drastic amounts of numbers. When you look at the land and how much of it's red, and the tiny amounts that are blue, and yet we're still somewhere almost 50-50 in the Senate and the House, this is because our side just doesn't vote enough. But in Wisconsin, what they tried to pull there is they tried to switch that seat from Democrat or from Republican to Democrat. And they were unfortunately successful, even though by the numbers they shouldn't have been. But we didn't vote. However, their gambit there failed too, because then they immediately did this thing that they promised and swore up and down they weren't going to do, is they went immediately to the Supreme Court, now that it's in the Democrats' favor, and they brought 2 lawsuits to try to gerrymander all the districts to give the Democrats 2 new blue seats. And they thought that would flip the House from red to blue. But then the Wisconsin House that they spent millions of dollars on declined to hear the cases. So that failed too. And then their egg hoaxes failed. And then the Democrats, the stock market was going to crash, failed. And then the Democrats' tariffs were going to crash our economy, failed. And then the Democrats, their push for illegal immigration failed. And then the Democrats, their push for not securing our border failed. And then the Democrats, they're lying about Medicaid and Social Security going to illegal aliens failed. See, they have nothing to run on. The Democrats push with their biggest base is white women, as they try to push them to take away all their rights except for the right to abortion. And that backfired too. So the Democrats have absolutely nothing now. Now, we're going to go on here. So this is on, I think, CNN, and this is Navarro. Is watch how she talks to another host there. As the Democrats are openly racist, and look how she tries to twist him, and she tries to twist him in because he's white, and she's Latino, that she speaks for all the Latinos, and he's just a privileged white man. And then when he calls her out on it for her racism, because that's what it is, she immediately tries to move the goalpost back and pretend that she's not a racist.
Respond to you saying that I was hyperbolic when I talked about a reign of terror.
Because that is hyperbolic.
No, it might be hyperbolic for you, as a white man.
Oh, okay.
It's certainly
So
not hyperbolic for me as a
racist
Latino.
now.
No, I'm not being racist.
It's incredible to dismiss my opinion for being a white
No,
man.
I'm not
is
dismissing
racist.
your opinion. I
Yes,
am telling
you
you
are.
that the Latino community, the brown
lot of them
community
disagree with you.
in
You do not
America.
speak in one voice
Okay,
for
well,
them.
let me speak with my voice. I mean, you said I was being hyperbolic.
you
Let me
insulted me
respond.
racially, sure.
I'm not. You being a white man as an insult?
When you invoke it to dismiss my
Being
opinion,
a white man
yes.
as an insult?
When you invoke it,
Are you?
as
Do you
an
think?
argument.
Do you think Latinos are living under circumstances that other people may not be right now?
There you go. There's so much wrong with that section, but the Democrats, see, this is how they convince that the racism is validated, because she decides in her own little mind that all Latinos fit under the Democrats' little umbrella, because these liberal elites, they think that they have the right to rule over you. I can't state this enough. That is 100% the way the Democrats think. Every single time they tell you over and over again, and then when they're called out, they try to move the goalpost like she did there. You as a white man, see, because white men in their minds are bad. And they think they're entitled to everybody that's not white. When in reality, as we just showed, that the exact opposite happened. More Latinos moved to the right than any other demographic. Vast amounts voted for Donald Trump. They voted for a secure border. They voted to deport illegal aliens. And this is another Democrat lie that they're trying to push, that everybody's in their camp when they're not. And CNN, of course, won't call them out on it, but he rightfully does. You are being hyperbolic. And you're trying to dismiss his opinion, Navarro, because of he is a white man. So because he is white, he can't understand what all the Latinos are going through. But she somehow does, because of her color of her skin. You see, that gives her agency, because she is a devout racist. And then when he calls her out of it and she can't justify her position, then she immediately, what does she always do? She goes right back to the women victim card. Well, I'm not saying that you don't have a valid opinion because you're white. When yes, she did, she just said it. But she goes, are you saying, this about white men? Are you saying about that white man? And he's saying, no. You said it, not me. The Democrats, identity politics, and the racism, keep it up. They're going to lose, well, very likely, the midterms here. And then what are they going to do for the next 4 years? The same hoaxes they're trying to pull now. With that, I'm way over our break. We'll be back to this greedy profit break. This is the Cash Loren Show. Well, the Democrats have absolutely no bench available to them. They're in such deep trouble. I think inside their own liberal bubbles, they don't realize how far down they have gone. What's a single issue that the Democrats can claim that they are on the right side of? See, they've always been the party of opposition. And they pretend that they're the party of being against the government when they are the party of the government. When they pretend that they're the party against taxes when they are the party of more taxes. When they pretend they're the party of the American workers, but then they bring in tens of millions of illegal aliens here into this country. When the Democrats, they pretend that they're the party for women's rights, yet they take away all women's rights, let biological males enter their sports and spaces, and then call women bigots for not wanting biological males in their places, and then reducing women to abortion, to the blood of the innocent. The Democrats, they have absolutely nothing to run on. And as they've become more and more open into their communist utopia, they push more and more people out of their party. And so their party, as we always call them, the liberal elite, are actually becoming the liberal elite. They're becoming the party of millionaires and billionaires and nobody else. It's like when they pretend to be against billionaires, that is also just another lie from the Democrat Party. And as they pushed everybody out, removing what we talk about merit, as merit is so important to the United States and why it's gained so much growth in such a short amount of time for the human race, and why it's created so much wealth in a short amount of time. However, the Democrats, they see merit as bad, because if you have merit, then you don't need them. So then they try to take away equality and change it to equity. And the unintended consequences when they do that is now they're finding more and more people that are qualified that just won't be a part of their party anymore. And so they're left with the most radical, the most leftist, the most activist, the most socialist, progressive, Marxist, communist left in America. And understand something about this, about the new Democrat Party, is that the younger generation of Democrats, they think Chuck Schumer is not crazy enough. Okay, they think that Hakeem Jeffries is not insane enough. The AOCs of the world, the Zohan, and all the others like the David Hoggs, the ones that are coming up, they think that the left actually needs to move more left, that the left needs to be more communist. But of course, they can't tell you that publicly because not many Americans would go for that. And so then what do instead? They just rebrand communism. They call it progressivism, or they call it democratic socialism. But do not doubt for a single second, whatever ism they want to repackage, liberalism, socialism, it all comes back to communism. It all goes down the exact same road. And this has led now to leaving them stuck where they now have no bench, where they have no Barack Hussein Obama. For as much of a liar that he was at least competent as a liar. But now they have no one. I mean, they just went through 4 years of Joe Biden, and they're trying to pretend that the Republicans caused all this damage to our country when they had the authority for the last 4 years. And this is why Americans are not buying it for a single second. This is why the Democrats are down to 17% and really probably even lower than that. And this is why the fake news networks are more than happy to try to cover for the Democrats are down even lower, and why they have no influence left. And Trump, in all his hilarity, he goes and he humiliates them again. Here's Donald Trump. He's talking about who they're left with, AOC and Jasmine Crockett.
AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test. Anyway, have a good time.
Trump just knows how to drive them absolutely crazy. The meltdown from the Democrats left. You can't say that. You can't call them low IQ. Hey, these are the same people that keep demanding that Trump take cognitive tests over and over and over again, and the same people that demand his doctor vials be released to the public. But they lied about Joe Biden's mental decline for the last 4 years. And Jasmine Crockett, to this day, is still trying to tell the American voters that she saw nothing wrong with Joe Biden, but that Donald Trump has a mental acuity problem. And yes, Jasmine Crockett is lying. But I want you to understand that in her mind, she is not lying. Because in her mind, see, the Democrats have decided they're morally right. And because they've decided they're morally right, then they decide that anything they do is good, anything the Republicans do is bad. And it doesn't matter if it's based in facts or opinions, because they are just. They are born to rule. And so when she says that his mental acuity, what she means, why she also agrees with Biden, is because Biden was an empty suit for the deep state, which is what the Democrats wanted. But Donald Trump is fighting the deep state. And so therefore, there must be something wrong with Donald Trump, because how dare someone go up against their liberal elite rule over you? Learn nothing. Please keep putting a microphone in front of Jasmine Crockett's mouth. I find it absolutely hilarious when she says things like the right is trying to keep the black women down. And I'm saying, no, put her in front of a camera, put a microphone in front of her face, let her talk, please, often, every single day, nonstop. Follow her around with the camera crew and let her speak her mind and play it for everybody to see, so you can see just how insane these loony Democrats really are. Please keep showing the American voters just how insane, how radical the left is. Jasmine Crockett and AOC, of course, won't take an IQ test. They're going to, of course, do all their normal victim cards, just like the Democrats always do. They will either one, just flat out ignore it, or two, they'll pretend that because there are people of color and the woman, and how Donald Trump is just so mean and he's a brute. It'll be one of those two things. Do not doubt for the same second, because it's always the same play card over and over and over again. And it's interesting now that the Epstein list is coming out, as at the same time as another huge story, maybe the biggest scandal of our generation. And this is the Joe Biden Autopen story. That, of course, fake news is trying to ignore, and fake news is trying to pretend that isn't happening, or that if they can't ignore it, then try to minimize it, as we'll go through here. So this Autopen, first, it's not the Autopen. Okay, people use Autopens all the time, whether you're a writer or you're an official for the government, whoever uses Autopens. Okay, there's nothing wrong with using an Autopen yourself. This is how fake news is going to try to twist this. The problem with the Autopen is the intent. Did Joe Biden know what he was signing? Did Joe Biden authorize these pardons? See, these are the questions that must be answered, because if he didn't, then they should all be void. And we covered earlier this week how New York Times, out of all the fake news, was reporting that his staff aide said that they were doing the final of these Autopen pardons without Joe Biden's knowledge. The deep state does not have the authority to sign these pardons. That is exclusive to Joe Biden. This is a huge, huge scandal, probably maybe in the last 100 years. I mean, this makes Watergate look like nothing. Because this is everything that we have been warning about. When you're supposed to elect your officials and they're supposed to do your will in Congress. That's how our constitutional republic is supposed to work. It's not supposed to work by what we call the deep state, or some call the blob, where these unelected bureaucrats actually run the government and make decisions that only is supposed to be made by the president. Whether we like it or not, the American people voted for Joe Biden to be their president for 4 years. And for those 4 years, he is the executor of the executive branch. Now, under his exclusive constitutional protection article, he is given exclusive powers that are only granted to him. They are not granted to the deep state, they are not granted to Congress, and they are not granted to judges. But he chose, it looks like, allegedly, to give up all of that authority to people that do not have it. Now, the fake news, they're trying to cover for Joe Biden with this story here when they actually have to talk about it. Because what are the two things they do? They will either ignore it altogether, or what they will do next is that they will then try to minimize it and pretend that it's something it's not. So this is the fake news that they love to do more than anything else, is they will tell you the pieces that they want you to know, but then they will leave out the parts that they don't want you to know, because if you know the full story, you would never come to the conclusion that they're trying to walk you down to come to. And so this is how they frame their newest hoax. They call it the NBC Autopen hoax. So they try to minimize what happened with Joe Biden. Remember that this is not the Autopen that's the problem. This is the intent. This is the knowledge. And so what they're trying to do now is they're doing this analysis on Comer's digital signature on oversight documents, meaning that they're now accusing Comer of using an Autopen to sign documents, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's done all the time. The issue is, did he authorize it? If he did, then the Autopen is just fine. But of course, they try to change it and they show his signature as it's signed by an Autopen. And fine. You know what? Okay. We got nothing wrong with that. What I got an issue with is that, did Joe Biden know what he was doing? Okay, when did they know that he had cancer? Did Joe Biden have dementia? Did his doctor know? And why did his doctor need to plead the fifth 14 times and refuse to ask questions on whether he lied to the American people on behalf of Joe Biden? See, those are the questions, and those are the answers that need to be answered. And why fake news tries to pretend that it's something that it's not this is how they always do it, right? Is they ignore it. They weren't able to ignore it. They had to cover it. And so then what do they try to do? They try to give you facts to get you to come to a conclusion that you never would have came to if you had the whole information. Right? They're trying to say, well, if Joe Biden used an Autopen and Comer used an Autopen, well, then obviously everybody's using Autopens, Republicans and Democrats. So what's wrong with using Autopens? That's the half information they try to get you to come to, leaving out the important half, the part that matters. With the Autopen is not the issue. The issue is intent. The issue is, was Joe Biden aware of what he was doing? Did Joe Biden authorize his signature? And now Donald Trump and his administration are now looking over 1 million documents apparently signed by the Biden administration. This has the potential to turn into one of the hugest scandals in United States history. And we will continue to cover that and a whole lot more, including we have Adam Schiff, another Democrat, that's in a huge scandal, and a whole lot more. You're not going to miss that or anything else. We'll be right back after this greedy profit break. This is the CASHLOREN Show. The wrong button. Let's see. There we go. Adam Schiff has found himself right in another middle of another huge scandal as the Democrat congressman has been found. So this is from breaking. Adam Schiff may have committed mortgage fraud, and Donald Trump posted this earlier today that Fannie Mae Financial Crimes Division concludes. And this is very similar to Letitia James, what she did in New York, that apparently Adam Schiff did in California. Now, what this alleges that he did is that, see, to be like the AG in New York, Letitia James, or for Adam Schiff to be in Congress from California, he's supposed to have his primary residence there in California. He's supposed to actually live where he represents. However, the fraud, the alleged fraud, where it comes from, is that in order to get better rates, in his case, to get a better rate, is a better mortgage, is he listed his primary residence in Maryland, and this is going all the way back till 2009, or February 6th of 2009. And then this wasn't fixed till October 13th of 2020. Now, did he do this to get a better rate? If he did, that is fraud, because you have to answer these questions. Right? Many loans you can't get unless that is your primary residence. Like, we have a loan on our mortgage, our house, right? It's a lien, a mortgage. And in order to get that mortgage, we had to sign that this was our primary residence, that we actually live here. And then if we wanted to get a mortgage, let's say for a rental property or for a second property, that's different rules. And we would have to tell whoever we are loaning the money from that is the case. If we didn't, if we lied to them and the banks found out, we could be arrested and we could be thrown in prison. We could be fined. And that's allegedly what Adam Schiff did, among all the other things with the Russia. But Letitia James also did a very similar thing, where she was supposed to be in New York, living there as the AG, but she wrote her primary residence in a different state. And then when she wrote their primary residence in that different state, it turns out that she may have never actually even lived there, that she was renting it out. See, so that is, again, mortgage fraud. If you say you're living there, you say this is your primary residence, and then you don't live there, see, that's fraud. They also got her on both sides, because either she lied to New York and said she was living there, or she lied to her other presidents and she said she was living there. One of the two are fake. She committed fraud either here in New York or another residence. Just like Adam Schiff did he do that to essentially pay less money on his mortgage? We'll have to wait and find out, because the Democrat side, they have all been consider themselves far above the law for far too long, that they think that they can just do anything they want and then they won't be held responsible. As we've called this a two-tier justice system, it has turned out to be exactly that. As we hear stories like this, and then they just kind of poof and go away, right? They're under investigation, and hopefully that is turning now. As we saw a congresswoman not too long ago who assaulted ICE agents and she got arrested. And now we had a former city council, I think it was in Spokane, Washington today, who assaulted ICE agents, and they were also arrested. The Democrats need to learn that they're no longer above the law, that they no longer get to enjoy for the two-tier justice system, just like anybody else does. Okay, if you lie and you commit fraud, that belongs to prison. And again, you know, we're going to say that justice is blind. Then it doesn't matter if you're Adam Schiff, a congressman, or some nobody who does it to get a mortgage that you can't afford. It's the exact same consequences, right? This is what blind justice is supposed to mean, what our side advocates for. But the Democrats see that they are too high above you in their lofty towers that rules and laws don't apply to them. And they've gotten so used to where like AGs just won't prosecute the cases, right? And police just won't investigate them. And this is causing them to become more and more unpopular. And it's causing them to get their lives to get more and more desperate, just like they're trying to now lie on the economy. How they kept promising when Donald Trump came back in office, how the economy was going to collapse and how he was going to cause a recession like we have not seen since the Great Depression. That all of you Americans, see, you voted for Donald Trump. How dare you vote against the Democrats? And now you are going to pay. Now you are going to suffer. See, we told you. We warned you. We said if you didn't vote for the Democrats, all those very bad things were going to happen, but then it didn't happen. And all the mistakes that Biden caused bled over into the Trump administration. And we said back then, there's going to be some shaky ground. Right? There's going to be some hills and some valleys. We don't know how bad it's going to go up. We don't know how bad it's going to go down. But when these policies come back in, this will turn our country back around. And the Democrats, what they always do is they had to jump and they had to move very, very fast because they have to get you frightened and they have to get you afraid so you don't think. They tell you like, oh my gosh, eggs are exploding in cost. Look at what Donald Trump has done to our economy. But they leave out the important part of that. Joe Biden's administration killed millions and millions of chickens and caused an egg shortage. And when that didn't work, and when the supply came back and eggs went back down, what did the Democrats do? Just do. They just moved on to the next hoax. Oh my gosh, we're going to have a major recession. These tariffs are going to cause the Great Depression. This is going to cause your prices to absolutely skyrocket. And not just the Democrats, their rhino friends like Rand Paul were more than happy to push these same lies again. All the same panicans over and over and over again, telling the American people the same lies over and over and over again, and yet they were proven wrong yet again. As tariffs are actually bringing billions of dollars into the United States of America. And inflation is actually going down. When they lied about how tariffs cause inflation, these so-called experts, they know how inflation works. Inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. Inflation is Joe Biden printing trillions of dollars for no reason and just pressing buttons and spending money and telling the Treasury not to account for any of it, to just approve everything, causing massive amounts of inflation that we suffered through the last 4 years. And that was actually what helped return Donald Trump, that and immigration. Well, now we have the consumer inflation report come in, and in June came in under again at 0.3%. And then overall for the year, 2.7%. See, this is just getting started. Promises made and promises kept. This is what happens when you put a billionaire in charge of the government. Instead of people like Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs and the Joe Bidens and the Hakeem Jeffries and the Chuck Schumers, who have been parasites for the federal government their entire lives, who have never done anything for themselves. They lie to you, the American people, to get power for themselves. And when their hoaxes don't work, they just move on to the next hoax and hope that you don't notice. And they try to demonize billionaires. They try to demonize doers. And they try to demonize merit. Because when you have all those things, when you have individual liberty, when you have wealth, and when you have your own money, when you don't need the government, as it turns out, you don't need Democrats. See, this is the very heart of the Democrat Party. This is why the only thing that unites them is their hatred for you, for our country. That is the only uniting factor that they have. They hate you so they can have power. And that's why they hate this country. That's why they pretend to hate white men. That's why they never fix any of the problems, because if they actually fix them, then you wouldn't need them anymore. See how this all works together? There's the Democrat Party coming together, full of just vile hate. They need you to fail. They need America to fail, or there is no Democrat Party. Those are the facts. And so every time they run these hoaxes, every time they try to go quick, right? But it doesn't work, as these are showing. As I said right when Donald Trump took office, and I said now, that there are going to be ups and there's going to be downs. Okay, there's going to be more peaks and there's going to be more valleys. This isn't over, but we're seeing the path happen in the right direction. You don't drain a swamp that's been building for however long you want to argue, 100-ish years, 30 years, like whatever you want to go back to the point in the federal government as it's grown and as our debt has grown. We won't have a once-in-a-generation chance to solve this. In fact, most generations never, ever have this opportunity. And this also, the Hill comes and they explain this, I think, perfectly, of how screwed the Democrats really are, yet they refuse to admit. So this is from the Hill, and it says, this is a nightmare scenario for the Democrats right now. Okay, the nightmare scenario is that America is doing well, that the stock market is doing well, that manufacturing is coming back to the United States, that Donald Trump passed the big, beautiful bill, that Donald Trump is building a wall, that Donald Trump is deporting all these illegal aliens from our country. See, that's the nightmare scenario for the Democrats, us winning. And to go on and to show that, they go on to say, we better pray long and hard. I love how they say pray. The Democrats who have hated Christians, pray. Okay. That the country is going to be in beeping depression. Again, the Democrats need this country to fail. They set it up to fail. When Joe Biden had to be replaced by Kamala Harris and then Donald Trump won the office, they did everything they could in those last 2.5 months to do as much damage as they could to our country. They tried with like their CR, they tried, remember, the bricks over the ocean. I mean, they tried to do as much spending. They tried to limit the debt ceiling, all this stuff they tried to do to hurt Donald Trump. I had another thing flashing up on my screen. So to go back to this, and then it goes on, because I don't know how else to find ourselves out of this mess. Because the Democrats have nothing to run on. Absolutely nothing. And if they don't figure this out, then they are completely screwed, and they won't. They're on the wrong side of every single 80-20 issue. Every single one. One of the last things they're now sitting on is you have Jerome Powell, as he is trying to obstruct the Trump administration by keeping interest rates when they should be brought down. As his interest rates, as inflation is this low, interest rates should be dropping with it. But of course, he is refusing to do so as he's slowly getting pushed out. Democrats are screwed by their own design. I mean, name one single issue that the Democrats are on the right side of the American people. Name a single issue that they can stand strong on. They can't do it on the economy. They can't do it on the borders. They can't do it on women's rights. They can't do it on immigration. They can't stand for education. They can't stand for the American family. They can't stand for your individual liberties. They can't have a single thing. So all they have is to hate Trump. But really, it's not hate Trump. It's hate you for being successful and not needing them. For you not being a victim and for you daring to be a hero. And with that, we're going to run out of time for today's episode. I appreciate every single one of you as the show continues to grow, especially we just came on TikTok this last week. It's great to have all of you over there with us as well. We'll be back again tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. This is the CASHLOREN Well, independent thinkers, we have come to the top of another hour. The rest of the stories have to go back in the stack. If you enjoyed this content, take a moment, hit the subscribe, turn on notifications. Most importantly, share a conservative message with your friends and family. We will be back Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern here on the CASHLOREN Show. We will go and we will expose and fight the fake news networks who have been getting away with lying to you for decades. Our content will always be free, but if you'd like to support more, you can do so monetarily over at locals at the CASHLOREN Show. And there's great rewards and benefits for doing so. For only about a cup of coffee a month, you will receive exclusive articles and you'll have your name at the end of the video, just like these other fine patriots have. If that sounds interesting to you, go over to locals right now for just a cup of coffee a month and help independent creators stay free, keep the lights on, and continue to expose the fake news networks. We'll see you again on the next episode. This is the CASHLOREN Show.